Right,
and
next
that was
then,
that.
Tell us about greasing up.
Greasing up, right. First come across that with young offenders or young persons at Forest Bank. Charles Bronson, people like that, they've been doing it a long time. Young offenders, full of testosterone or whatever, always fighting, kicking off with staff.
For American viewers, you just want to briefly explain Charles Bronson, who he is.
Right, Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson is probably the most infamous prisoner in the British prison system. He was an armed robber. The dates might not be true, but he basically got a 4-year sentence for armed robbery, something like that. Got out of prison for not a long time, came back to prison, and then through his behaviour, he's been locked up ever since. He's been in years. He's done more than a life sentence. He's done more. He's never murdered anyone, but what he did is he's taken people hostage in prison. He's tried to escape from prisons. When I say that, he's maybe climbed up a fencing and got stuck in razor wire. I know he did that, I think, at Wakefield Prison. He got an extra 3 years on his sentence for that. So he's been a very, very disruptive prisoner. The vast majority of his time has been in solitary confinement. Physically, at his prime, he was in the Guinness Book of Records for most press-ups in 24 hours, things like this. An insane fitness regime. He'd done some boxing on the out, so he was a brawler, a street fighter, and he's also been absolutely barking. He's been sectioned at times, and he's been put in mental hospitals, in and out, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. He's still locked up now. At some point very soon, someone's going to have to decide whether letting him out. Like I say, he's never murdered anyone, and he's been locked up, I don't know, best part of 40 years maybe, give or take 5 years, I don't know. So, he's an extremely disruptive prisoner. However, in his book, it says, if he knew officers were coming to restrain him, if he'd kicked off, if he'd done anything, or if he was going to protest himself, he would cover himself in anything. Young offenders will use Vaseline, shampoo, anything like that. Smear your arms, all your body. So when officers try and grab hold of you, like the old slippery fish, you can't restrain people. Very, very difficult. They'd also put it on the floor. If you're going into a cell, young person or whoever, would be at the back of the cell and there'd be shampoo on the floor. Extremely difficult to deal with people like that. Obviously, very dangerous.
Do you have any stories of particular individuals you had to go in who'd greased up?
Young offenders all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, I remember one manager I didn't particularly get on with, but we're on the young offender wing. We actually had 2 teams of officers kitted up, and we had 2 prisoners in a cell. So you have to understand, this is a planned intervention, yeah? So in the private sector and public sector, if it's planned, officers will get kitted up, and they will have a camera person, somebody on camera filming it. That's for officers' protection and prisoners' protection. You'll speak to the prisoners, you'll try and de-escalate, maybe tell them, get back of the cell on your hands and knees so you can go in and cuff them, get them to back out of the cell. There's various techniques you can use to get people out. Anyway, so this manager is talking to these 2 prisoners, and without sort of referring to the team or the guy who was coordinating it, she decided that she de-escalated, and these 2 prisoners, she was going to lock them and let them out of the cell instead of the teams going in. So she did that. These 2 kids were covered in shampoo and God knows what. We chased them up and down the wing for a good 20 minutes. It was quite comical in the end and quite embarrassing as well. So, but there's lots of instances, certainly with young offenders, they were at it all the time.